and keep an open mind as you listen.
Okay, my name is John Malish. I started with the city in 2001 as a student co-op. I have 2 degrees from Kent State. They're both in horticulture and with a specialty in urban forestry. The way that this came about is after the blackout in 2003, First Energy began their trimming, and what we did, we had so much negative impact in Firestone Park area, and because those trees really hadn't been trimmed back under those utility lines, really that's severe to get that 15-foot clearance, which is what First Energy's guidelines are. So we started brainstorming of what can we do to get ahead of the game here, and so we had a meeting with the service director, First Energy, and we went through. They gave us all their circuits that they planned on trimming that year. We drove each circuit with their forester, and then determined which ones, by the time that they were finished pruning, which ones were so unsightly that they were unacceptable to the city. They wouldn't make it because their energy reserves had been depleted. They wouldn't make it past a 4-year period. And then the city would be responsible for that removal. Because when they trimmed when the trimming happened in Firestone Park, the city was then stuck 3 years later with 17 removals on Brown Street. And we just didn't think it was fair, but we wanted to get ahead of the game with First Energy and work with them to try to get this problem alleviated and ultimately save the taxpayers money, because the cost for removal is right around $500 depending on the size. I mean, they can $250. Some of these out here, the city's paying upwards of $2,500. And that's on citywide contracts, though, with dead trees. But so this program has worked fairly well for the past 3 or 4 years. We've never received really any complaints until this ended up happening, and I do apologize for not notifying the property owners prior to us doing that, and that's something that we're going to have to do a better job at. I like trees. I plant close to 1,100 every year in the city. I run the city replacement program. I run the trimming program. And what we have done over the past couple of years is we developed a master planting plan. And in this, it details distances from drive aprons, from fire hydrants. And it also dictates what we can plant under overhead utilities. And just because there's utilities on both sides, or poles on both sides of the street, doesn't necessarily mean that there's electricity on both sides. And we're concerned with those primary wires, and because sometimes there's phone and cable on the other side, and that's not really something that we're concerned with, because that's never trimmed for. It's just the primary wires. So working with First Energy, we decided that it would be best if we alleviated the trimming problem for future years just by planting understory trees, so stuff that would stay 25 feet or smaller. So you're talking crab apples, dogwoods, redbud, and there I have a whole list here. And we plant over 150 different varieties. We plant more varieties than any other city in Ohio, and I know that just from going to the different nurseries and pulling inventory for our planting program, that we are well diversified. And looking at this area here, you know, we have, the problem was we had 2 contracts going on at the same time. We had the First Energy trimming, and then we also had our we had a sidewalk replacement program, which was we were removing 2 trees, or 3 trees on Palisades. 1 in the middle of Palisades, and then 2 down here on the corner of Letchworth and Palisades. And so it seemed as though we were
attacking us
a lot at one time. The sidewalk replacement program, it was a resident-driven program. The residents petitioned for that to happen, and I'm not an engineer, but we have to follow ADA guidelines with the sidewalk. So there has to be, I think it's 1/4-inch slope, and if the sidewalk is six inches, essentially you would need 50 feet of run in order to get that. And sometimes it works to where we can ramp over. We did that on Eagle's Nest and Malvern in years past. Sometimes it just can't, it won't work because we don't have that distance to get to those drive aprons, and we have to install it to ADA requirements. I did a records search here. In this area, in this neighborhood here, since 2009, we have planted 127 trees in this neighborhood. I try to hit every neighborhood on a 3 to 4 year basis to make sure that we're fully stocked in these areas. And the problem, you know, it's an odd situation that all of these oaks were planted at the same time, so we don't really have a big age diversification. Everything is the same age, so problems are going to start to happen here, to where there's going to be decline, and it's going to seem like a lot's going to happen. I have no intentions of removing anything unless it's dead on any of these oaks, unless it's a sidewalk issue that, and we can't meet those requirements for ADA.
That's a lot of sidewalks.
I'm open for questions. Yes.
You said you've planted how many trees?
We planted 127 in a 5-year period.
And how many of them have died?
That was 2012 when I last did an inventory of this section, and I do have maps here.
Okay. There's a dead tree on my street now that did not get taken care of. It's still there.
Okay.
It's actually in front of her house.
We do have door hangers that our contractors do place on when we do.
If those people don't do that, the tree's going to die.
She was taking care of the tree. It died anyways.
And if something like that happens, and this goes for everybody, 311 is a valuable source for the city.
It is.
All calls are logged in, and the service request is immediately sent to the right department. The right person gets that information, and then it's acted upon. So again, if you ever have any issues, whether it's tree related, sidewalk, trash, please call 311.
So if you're taking down the dead trees and replacing them, why would 4 perfectly good trees on Martin take down straight to us?
And I was not, and this is no excuse, I was not the one to make that.
I know that.
But I can only take an educated guess as to why, and it would have to be, one, if to get to that next pruning cycle, those in our professional judgment, that in our years of experience as arborists, we felt that the tree would not have made it past that 4-year period. We would rather have First Energy remove the tree.
Okay, and I talked to the tree people that was cutting down the trees, and I said, why are these trees being cut down? At first they said it's up to Bill Hahn. He is the one that gave us order to do this. When we started to cut the trees, we asked him, why are we cutting these trees down? Because they're perfectly good. And his answer was, because they're ugly. Just cut them.
See, I apologize for that. That's not
4
the answer.
trees in a row. I mean, why not take 1 tree, leave 1 tree, take 1 tree, leave 1 tree?
And we
The
probably
balance is
something-
off now.
Right. Everything that was removed will be replanted again this fall.
With little tiny trees that look like Mickey Mouse trees that are about this round. They're never going to be to the magnitude that these trees are right here now. They'll never get there because they're not even the same kind of trees.
Right.
So
Because
now the whole balance
those,
of the neighborhood is being shifted.
but those were lindens that were there.
Yes, that's right. London
Right.
staff, the people in this neighborhood paid for because the city did not have the money to pay for the trees when the neighborhood was put in. So the neighbor pulled together and bought those trees.
See, and that's true though. 'Cause I live over by St. Sebastian's and down between Elmdale and Clever. We had like 5 trees come down last summer, the summer before. So they're right on Exchange and Clemmer, but they've had at least 15 come down in the 14 years I've been there. They're not being replaced. And you're right, when they do, there's those tiny trees.
Yeah,
and it changes the whole, I walk my dogs through there all the time. And it's beautiful. They're so majestic.
But the replacement program, since its inception, has always been a citizen request program. And
But see,
I
was
would
told by
be
Phil
glad
Home,
to
when one
put
comes
trees.
down, another one should go back.
I would
like
be
within a
glad
year.
to infill an entire neighborhood, but you wouldn't believe how many times I'm stuck with an entire trailer and the contractor full of trees that people come out and just scream. And I mean, a true story. I was actually threatened in Kenmore before.
So was I by the tree cutters.
By the Barberton tree couple. They almost ran her over with their car.
And
That's ridiculous.
I have that email from Rich. And that will be dealt with internally.
I guess what I'm saying is I did not get the big picture of what you're actually doing until all 4 of those trees went down. I feel that what your plan is to eventually take out all of these trees and replace them with the little trees so that they only go up to the wire.
No. Martin and Meglin are the only 2 streets that have.
Yes, and Meglin does not have any more big
Every other
trees.
street in here, everything runs behind the properties.
Yep.
So that gives us free open range to do the large oaks in these streets.
Yes, but you'll all of a sudden you'll see a large oak and then you'll see this little tiny tree that you don't even know what it is. It looks like a Charlie Brown tree. It's no bigger than an inch round.
But that's what these
And
went
half
in.
of them are already dead that they put in.
And oaks are a difficult transplant. And it, again, we will continually to replant until we have 100%.
But you're not replanting the same type of trees that are here, so it's never going
Okay,
to look the same.
can we move on?
We're going to let some other people.
Okay.
You're making some good points, but we're going to let
And
other
I think Judy's made excellent
Yes, she has.
I'm hearing a couple things. Mr. Malish, I think you have a very difficult job. Okay.
Especially since it wasn't your responsibility, and I think it's in poor taste of the city to send someone who had probably until you got that email or that call, no idea what was going on. Bill Hahn should have cut his vacation short. When he sent that email on the 7th saying, hey, we're going to cut these trees, I'm out of town until the 18th. He should have at the very least, sent a message or something. I'm sorry that you're the one that has to take this.
And it's not personal.
No,
It's just about our neighborhood.
Can I make my point?
I was going to say, what were you going to say? Can I make my point?
Are you saying something?
I thought it was.
when I hired in,
I guess I'm not anymore.
I was told every single thing I do, imagine it is your front yard. People don't really care about the concrete. They don't care about asphalt. They want to see green grass in their street lawn. They want to see trees. They want to see everything put back to the way it was before a project even started.
Karen, over here, Karen.
She was still talking.
But I do think you have a difficult job, and that's why you lost you. Here's the point I see here. You're sharing a lot of problems that you have by coming into these areas when you guys are trying to deal with the trees, okay? And I think that's saying something about the way the city is addressing this problem. People become very angry because of the aggressiveness and the way that you are handling this. People are not notified. You aren't even addressing the environmental impact that you had by removing 4 trees on that street. And that's a huge environmental impact. You know, you're talking about water runoff, we're talking about shade, we're talking about sound prevention here. I mean, that has a huge impact.
More on your utility bills?
Yeah, so I'm not sure where the city is going with this wonderful plan that you have in place. I'm sure there's great statistics in there, and it's well thought out. But you need to look at the aesthetics and the environmental impact that you're having in these areas. And that's where I think you're completely missing the boat. And that's why people are upset. So the city, whoever this person may be, Mr. Hahn or who the new mayor, whoever that's going to be, needs to address this problem because this is going to continue to surface. And as I said yesterday, you know, this area is one of our premier areas in Akron. And you, the city, the people that we expect to protect this, we are coming home from work now and finding out that you are the ones tearing apart our neighborhood under orders. So this is where we need to take a huge stand. We're willing to work with you, but we are not going to take it when you come in here and destroy an area that all of us have worked very hard, because people here are rooted. You have generations of people in this neighborhood, and the city is destroying our environment. And that's what your job needs to be, is to protect it, not destroy it.
Amen.
I've lived here for 10 years. I live just down here on the corner of Tammy, Emmy, and Eagle Nest. And I had 3 linden trees that came down on their own, basically, and it was the same thing. About 5 years ago, the first one came down. A branch would break across the street, would ruin the trunk. It would have